Hey, what's up going on, guys? It's Amir Baluch. We're on another episode of the Side Hustle MD Summit. Today we have Dr. Verne Weisberg, who is a retired plastic surgeon. He's also the author of Business for Doctors: 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom Without Stress. And we're going to talk about something really cool, which is how to get your practice set up in a way so you actually have time for a side hustle. So, Verne, thanks for coming on board. This is a really interesting topic, especially since a lot of people viewing have practices and are trying to find out how to squeeze in a side hustle.
I'm really excited to be here, Amir. That's really cool. I can't wait to get going here.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And you're already retired. You sold your practice, you told me earlier on. So how did you come up to where you are now, and what's your main goal with physicians? Because you were mentioning earlier on that you now have a private practice mastermind. So can you tell us how you started from plastic surgeon to now this?
Well, sure. There was a point where I was working my butt off, as so many people understand, and there weren't really enough hours in the day, and I was trying to figure out why the margins were so slim. And I kept thinking, well, I just need more patients. But then when are you going to see them? how are you going to take care of them? And it took me a while, and I had to have a moment of epiphany where I realized that I didn't have control over my practice, and I wasn't actually running a business. The business was running me. So I had to learn a lot, and was able to turn things around and become, first of all, the person I needed to be in order to create the business so that it was attractive and had value that somebody wanted to buy. So I was able to do that over the course of a few years, sell the practice, continue to work in it a little bit, and then decided, as I started to have grandchildren, it was time to retire and move on to California, which is sort of opposite to everybody in the world, to be with my kids and grandchildren. But I really love giving back, and really have wanted to help other physicians who are facing the kinds of hurdles and challenges that I faced. And I wanted to be able to maybe relieve that pain so they didn't have to do it trial and error and spend the fortunes that I spent to figure it out.
Very awesome. So, we're talking about side hustles on this summit, and I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of doctors that are trying to create one or find one or figure out their purpose. But what do you think doctors are actually looking for when it comes to side hustles? Why is there so much demand for this these days?
Well, I think obviously, the thing that jumps to mind is the concept of burnout. We're dealing with too much paperwork. We're dealing with reduced reimbursements. We're dealing with having to run a practice with people and HR and the different things that we now have to be aware of when we're dealing with people, talking to people, all of those challenges. But, I guess my initial thought when anybody talks to me about, doing something else is, why exactly are you doing it? And what's the outcome? What are you looking for? Are you looking to just get rid of that stress? And if so, how is adding more business or more responsibility going to do that? Are you looking to supplement income, or you got things in such a great place that it's sort of automatic and you're kind of bored and you want to do something else? Or are you just feeling that maybe if you tried something new, you could leave the thing that you used to love that seems to not love you back anymore?
Right. So, I know a lot of doctors that are super busy with their practice. They're they're getting more doctors on board, they've got mid-level extenders, but if they want to do something a little bit different than their core job as a physician, how are they going to be able to manage their practice in a way to expand out to something else? Do you have any tips for people out there?
Well, I think the first thing is to take a kind of an inventory of what are your capabilities and what are your skills and where do you sit. You know, every business requires the artist, it requires the manager, and it requires the entrepreneur. And everybody has a little bit of that, but I think most physicians, as you know, we're artists. We love what we do. Nobody does it as well. It's hard for us to give up responsibility or control. So we really are the artist. And as an artist, it's hard to put on that hat of being the manager. So the manager is somebody who says, you do this work, you create, and I can set up the system and I'll run it and make it run smoothly. And I'll be in charge of, you know, where is the money going? Where is it coming from? And all of that. And then the entrepreneur is looking at it and going, wow, this is really cool. I think I can maximize and optimize this so that we can either create value in it to sell it and move on to the next thing, or at least continue to have that. So the key is to decide where you sit on that, in those roles. What are you really best at, and where do you need help?
Got it. Yeah, I know a lot of doctors are very like hands-on. They want to, see where all the checks are going and micromanage every employee. And I was talking to another doctor before. He's like, whenever you start a business, you should run it as if you want to sell it, and you should run it as an entrepreneur and start building systems and things like that. And I think that's definitely not something people learn in medical school. So like, this is one of the only ways to learn about it is talking to other people that have sold the practice and then reverse engineer, oh, that's what I need to know from the beginning. So, so I know some people out there, they already have a side hustle and they're thinking about going full time, but they still got this practice. What are some ways they could kind of optimize their practice to get the most bang for the buck? Because private equity, they might be looking for certain things, and your price could be a 2x multiple or 11x depending on certain factors. And for those guys listening out here that don't know what multiples are, basically most businesses will sell for a multiple of the net income or EBITDA, and so that's kind of what we're talking about with multiples. So if, let's say somebody's making 100,000 net profit, they could sell at 2x, which is 200,000, or they could sell at 10x, which is $1 million. So you want to shed some light on those topics and what you figured out in your journey?
Well, that's really fascinating that you mentioned that, because I remember the first time that I heard about multiple, I was like, there's a multiple? What is that? And in fact, there's a huge book of multiples in business, what multiple ranges. And I was sad to hear, actually shocked to hear how low the multiples are on a medical practice.
Yeah.
And really it's probably more like 1.5x.
Right.
It's not a lot. So I think, if you're sitting with a good functioning practice and your staff aren't tearing each other apart or undermining each other and causing you lawsuits and things like that, you want to be able to be sure that your systems are in order so that when a business person comes in and looks at it, they're able to see the numbers, you need to have your numbers there, you need your reports, you need to understand what they mean, so that you can demonstrate the value as well as the room for growth and what the plan is going forward. So you want to build it so that it is an ongoing, maturing, but not over mature business, one that's in that growth, mature cycle of growth in a business. So businesses start off as, kind of like children. And for a while everything grows and everything's easy. You don't have to think much about, who's responsible for this and how are we going to get more, clients, and how are we going to keep this going. And then eventually you realize that the systems need to be there. So make sure your systems are great. Make sure you understand what the metrics are, and make sure you have it set up so that you are able to work a specific time every week on the business, not just in the business. So you're not just a high paid employee of yourself.
Right. That sounds good. What would be an example of a system in your practice as an example?
Okay, so a system of having somebody understand what they're supposed to do. So say somebody's at the front desk, and what's their job? Their job to answer the phone? Is their job to greet the person who comes in? And if they're answering the phone, what are they supposed to say? And the clue is they're not supposed to say, "Can you hold?"
Right.
Doctor's office, can you hold? I mean, they're very specific things that people need to know. So you have to have that worked out exactly. Here's what I have to do with a checkpoint, and you can actually set it up as a pretty simple Excel sheet that the person who's working can fill out, and they know that they've hit their metrics for the day. Say, like, how many phone calls are answered, how many appointments are scheduled, something like that. And they have that at the end of the day, and they can see, did I do well today? Did I not? Where can I improve? And that becomes centralized so that they're able to actually manage themselves.
That makes sense. And now my next question, follow up, because you're mentioning some of those metrics. Can you explain what a KPI is, and what are some KPIs that maybe every doctor should have in their practice?
Well, these performance indicators, a performance indicator is one that either is leading or trailing. So you know that if you do these things, you're going to have an outcome. So you know that if you step on the scale at the end of the week, it shows you how you've done for the week. It doesn't really show you where you're going. But you kind of have if you have a plan, and your key performance indicator, your KPI, the things that you might want to do, say if you're looking to lose weight, you go, well, I'm going to, so today I'm going to have a certain amount of protein. Today I'm going to have a certain amount of fat. Today did I avoid certain things? Did I avoid alcohol? Did I, get enough sleep? Various things that you decide you want to measure that are going to have a positive impact on your bottom line being your outcome. So everything is outcomes driven. And if you have your outcome, then you can determine what sorts of things do I want to do that I think are going to move me forward. And at regular intervals, you then evaluate that and say, okay, I did these things. What did I see? Is that working? Do we have to change anything? Do we have to augment? Do we have to take away?
Got it.
I hope that's helpful.
No, that makes sense. And I think a lot of people don't have KPIs in their business. They just kind of go with the flow, but then you can't set quarterly milestones, annual goals. So there's a good book out there called Good to Great, which I read a long time ago, but basically they have a lot of good examples of what some of the most successful companies in the US have done. So if anybody wants examples, you could take a look at that. In fact, I might even do a book summary on my podcast about that, because it's so important for businesses in general. So
that's that whole we have a whole section in my book specifically on operations and very in great detail.
Awesome. Yeah, that was key for me. Like we had talked before when I was selling my med spa, the reason I was able to get a premium on the multiple about like 3.2x was we had so many systems in there. Even if I needed to hire somebody, there's a checklist. This is what you put on Indeed. This is how many, this is how often you're going to post it on there. These are the interview questions. This is how you screen them. So I didn't have to do anything literally. And then we even brought in some sales trainers to teach the front desk, hey, this is how you talk to the customer, like this is how what you were talking about, and just have it all written down, put into an employee handbook, and they sign off, and I could go work on the business instead of in it, as you were mentioning before. So, that all that stuff is so important. And now with like, another one of my side hustles is, building e-commerce stores and e-commerce consulting. So now with my experience from the med spa and these standard operating procedures, we're able to go from like 2 employees to 119 employees very quickly, because we had an SOP for HR. And so HR would just run, so I don't have to like anybody. So if you guys want to, I know a lot of doctors out there, they're very competitive. They love to grow. Definitely, if you like to grow quickly, look into the KPIs, operating procedures, standardize it, write it on paper. It'll help you a lot, and also help you get a higher multiple on your practice if you're looking to sell it and transition out. And speaking of books, your book, tell us a little bit more about your book and what's in it, Business for Doctors. Yeah, I mean, this is like the end all guide, right? I think you were telling me before, if somebody has this book from A to Z, they could manage and sell their practice. What are some of the things that people can learn in there?
Well, it's subtitled 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom Without Stress. And the whole idea is that you're supposed to be able to make this into fun, and business is supposed to be fun and a game. It's not supposed to drive you crazy and give you brain damage. So we started off, my idea was that I had wished there was a book that taught me about business, because I did not learn it in medical school. I'm sure you didn't. And most of the people listening, there's very little. And now maybe there's some attempt to have a course or two about business, but very little. Yeah. And the only business guidance I had ever gotten was, show up, be affable, take care of everybody, do great work, and the money will come. And that's all you need to do. And everything will be great, and you'll have a wonderful life. But, there's a lot more to it. And as much as we don't think it's supposed to be that way, in our heart of hearts and our goodness, medicine is a business, and it's a big business. And to quote my mentor, Keith Cunningham, they are using live ammo out there. And if you show up with a paintball gun, you're going to get slaughtered.
Right.
So you really have to be a business person, because that's who you're dealing with. You got your vendors, you got your insurance carriers, you got the HR, you got all these lawyers that the people who work for you somehow find when you decide that even though it's an at-will state, they should leave and they think they shouldn't. There are all these things, and this is real, and it can be very painful and very disturbing, because maybe you didn't get into medicine to be a business person, but you are. And the key is to, how can you do this? So we wrote this book really to help everybody, and it turned out that it's a book that you could on your own just go through this, and it gives you every step that you need to take to tune up your practice or to get a real business education. And on its own, it's great like that.
Very cool. And I know you have another another resource for people, for anybody that's viewing the Side Hustle Summit. Is called 10 Professional Pitfalls to Avoid When Scaling or Selling. So guys, I always end this with an action step, but here's some action steps for you to get this, to avoid these pitfalls, okay? So how can somebody get a hold of this? Anybody on the Side Hustle Summit, where should they go to grab their copy of this?
I think that what we're going to do is we'll set up the mdceos.com. That's my website, www.mdceos.com/SideHustleMD. And you'll be able to download this PDF.
Okay. There you guys have it. Hopefully everybody watching got some good value out of this, especially y'all that have a practice and didn't go to school for business. You can get a lot of tips here. So once again, Verne, thanks for coming on board and sharing all this knowledge with us. I'm sure people are going to get a lot out of this episode.
I hope so. And I really had a great time. Thanks.
Awesome. No problem.